I can never handle that pig, man. I swear to God.
So that pig is my boss's pig.
That's Jeff. Jeff's,
Jeff.
I've seen his love for pigs go like tenfold. I mean, I follow him. Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I forget what it was, but this is what it is. We have this like a Slack channel we have for Narwhal for pets and kids.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff's always posting pictures of his pigs. So we're like, Jeff, don't you have kids? He's like, nah, just pigs.
He's a cool dude, though, man. I love Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff's awesome.
The best. Yeah.
But yeah, welcome everyone. This is ZLS 059. Super excited to have Adi on the show. He's doing some cool hand signals like hand match.
whatever 059 will stand for. So
we gotta do like a Roman signal.
Exactly, like the V or whatever, man.
There we go. What 50 is like no, I don't know what 50 is. But yeah.
50 is an L, I believe, or no, C is like M is 1,000.
M is 1,000.
L is 50. C is 100. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it's like milli and centi. Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you go. We're gonna figure it out. But yeah, Adi, saw you recently on like the Angular Roundtable. I was watching because Brandon's a good friend of mine. Super interesting topic for me. But yeah, felt like the Roundtable came across some really cool stuff and some really cool people. Was glad I was able to get introduced to you and been watching your Twitch channel a little bit. Let me throw up the link for this real quick.
All right.
So you've been doing. I've been stalking on you a little bit. So we got the your JavaScript guy channel.
Yep.
Watching. Make sure you go down, subscribe, and check out what Addy's got to offer. One of the big things, though, that I was loving on this channel was the alphabet game you're building from scratch.
Yeah.
So I have some younger daughters that are, we're homeschooling right now because of the pandemic, and I'm like, I wish I could do something with them, or I could like you see these games they play on their tablet. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you'll be happy then because I'm wrapping it up into something that is going to be very simple for parents to come and then just put their own voice on top of it. Because the whole idea was, I speak different, so I speak different. My daughter is tuned to the way that I speak, and I'm going to be one of the main person who's going to be like teaching her, all those stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to record my own voice. That's how it started. And I'm like, okay, let's make it like a JavaScript game because we can talk about event delegation. I don't know how I connected the two at some point, but it just made sense to me. And I was like, oh, that would be a cool tutorial too. So we're gonna put it as a full-blown, very simple game, but like aim for the developers to take it and then make it their own and then like play with their kids with it. And then we'll see where it goes with that.
Awesome. So like you can record your own voice packs and
yes, you can. So I did the 26 letters. It was very, very simple, A to Z. And then, I went to, I don't know what I used, like one of those sound, whatever, just like took each one as an MP3 file. And that was pretty straightforward. But my daughter loves it when she hears my actual voice and she's touching the letters. So yeah, that's very powerful. Yeah.
So I'm linking here to your YouTube channel as well. So y'all also subscribe down. And Addy, we were talking before we went live. I'm loving the picture you've got on your channel here. Super business.
No, man, that was for my folks at Wrangle.io. Like, I had a short-lived gig with Wrangle.io. They came into Atlanta, and they got like a very cool office down there. We were there to, and I still to this day, some of my best friend in tech came from that endeavor. Unfortunately, we had to part ways just because, I mean, I cannot get into the details of that, but it was a friendly
Sure.
parting way. So, and I will always reminisce that. But the cool thing that happened, they sent us a professional photographer, and we were goofing around that day. We had striking pose, and then that one ends up being like on my YouTube channel now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You don't happen to know Nitin from Wrangle, do you? He was formerly at Narwhal too, and yeah, Nitin. Last name starts with V. I'm blanking on his last name right now, but
that sounds familiar.
Former Narwhal guy. He had a very professional looking picture as well from when he was at Wrangle too.
Yeah. Wrangle doesn't mess up with that. Everything is cool. Image is polished. Yeah. So yeah, they got me a little polished there. Yeah.
Well, you're looking pretty polished, right? I don't know.
That's the side effect. That's the side effect from Wrangle, I guess.
There you go. Well, very nice, man. Well, this is maybe a good segue to one of the things I was looking forward to talking to you about. Just like your path business, like when you got started, where did you get started, and like just how it went.
Well, I mean, the digest is I came into the US in 2000.
Okay.
I'm from Senegal, West Africa. I came into the US in 2000. I knew that I wanted to do something in computers. I was not sure what. And out of everywhere in the US, I landed in Monterey, California, like the most expensive place to be as an immigrant that you can even possibly think about. But then there was like the Cabrillo College junior college, and then that's where I started. I really stumbled into a PHP class, and then I kicked it off with my teacher. I still don't remember his name, Ed Parrish, and like he just was so zen about programming, and like I just was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I know that this is what I want to do. So awesome. 2 years forwarded from that, I moved to Santa Cruz, California, and I stayed there for I think 7 to 8 years, and then while I was there, I really was just like picking up like the Murak books, like the Java Murak books, the everything, like, because at the time we had Barnes and Nobles, no Stack Overflow, no anything else. That's just like getting your book out. So that was how it is. And then one day, I think somebody was just like, I need a website for my business. Can you build it? I'm like, yeah. And like, do you have a business? Do you? I'm like, yeah, that's what I do for a living. I created my company overnight. And I started building website. I mean, since 2002. So that's the story right there.
Awesome, man. Mm-hmm. So when did you learn that you always bet on JavaScript? That's the big question.
Yeah. So PHP was my first love, and
I have had bad experiences with PHP, unfortunately.
I mean, like, to me, it was just like, it was, now thinking about it, it was very painful. And that's what got me into JavaScript, because at some point, when it got to be challenging in like doing a web application, I had to go to a Zen framework, for example, and there was so many scripting things in there, and it was not fun anymore. Then some guy, decided to get jQuery out, and they got me at the $. Like I said, the rest is history. Because just before that, if you think about it, there was like the best thing that like Yahoo did for us, the not YSlow. They had a library, the YUI library. That was great at the time. There was the prototype library. Google had Closure, but nothing came as easy to consume and to get so quickly into somewhere with like jQuery. And then of course I abused the hell out of jQuery, because I started like trying to build everything with it. And then I understood that I did not know JavaScript at all. I mean, like, so I went to an interview, And some guy asked me about closures, and I'm like, is he talking about relationships or something? What the hell are you talking about? you know? So
Closures. That's when you like
yeah,
close your
yeah.
laptop, right?
I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? I mean, he's talking about closure. I'm like, man, I mean, is he mad with his girlfriend or something? What is going on here? So,
It's closure.
but it was a huge wake up call that, like, okay,
Mm.
there's the knowledge when you consume a library, and then you know how to use that library, and then there's the language, So, and I was like, okay, this is the last time I'm going to be dumb about this. And then why I bet it on JavaScript was that I started seeing it creeping everywhere. I think at the time,
Mm.
um, what is it called? Ionic was not out, but there was the other one from Adobe, the predecessor of that. What was that called for mobile? I forgot the name now. But there was so many cool little things, and I saw that the common denominator was JavaScript, and I was like, this thing is gonna
Yeah.
blow at some point. This is gonna be it. I'm gonna stick here, and I'm good. And some of my friends were like, come on to Ruby on Rails. I'm like, I'm sticking with JavaScript. Yeah. Who's laughing now?
Yeah. Here, so I saw this random stat, and I'm gonna just pull the numbers out, but it was something like 38% or something random of the web is still WordPress, which is all well, that's all PHP at the end of the day, right?
It
So
is. It is. But at the
that's
same time, now you have like headless CMS. You can use like WordPress as an API and make it work with your Angular framework or whatever else. So JavaScript is taking over. And then this whole thing that Netlify has started, I will not say Netlify has started it, but Netlify has augmented, basically everything is going to come back to JavaScript for a while at least. I see Rust
yeah.
coming like underneath because that's kind of where we're going.
Mhm.
But JavaScript is going to be here for a long time, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, thanks for stopping
Hey,
by.
what's up, man?
Josh is a good friend.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah. What? So for you, it was more like you just saw JavaScript everywhere. You kind of
hmm
had the feeling. Was there something about the language that ever like tipped you off? Like when you got into closures and you started understanding those complexities of the language, was that ever convincing to you, or was it just seeing it elsewhere?
Well, I mean, I was so pissed off about it at some point that I even like wrote directly to Brandon Ike at the time. I
Oh,
tweeted to
really?
him. I wish I had the tweet somewhere. I need to find it and send it to you. And he responded. And he was like very cool about it. He was like, hey, yeah, I don't know what was the particular feature at the time that I was like complaining about, but he responded almost right away. And he was like, yeah, we could have thought about it better, but at the time, and I was very humbled by the fact that he did that. And I
Yeah.
think that I did yell at Adi Osmani like in a comment before, and I was like, you guys make this look too simple when we are here suffering, in like the
Yeah.
day to day into making this happen. Can you get like more involved like examples, because you are using too many stuff that are so simple, but that's not what we deal with in the
Yeah.
real. And I did the same thing with Start Modo. So I got to that point where I started becoming this rebel of like, I don't know enough, but you guys, you are the expert, I'm gonna come after you. But I think everybody leveled up, and that's
Dude,
that's for the best.
that's awesome though. ZLS
Yeah.
loves a rebel. So I'm glad we got you on.
But all of those people I just mentioned, I absolutely love their content. I would not be here today if it was not from for the people I just mentioned: Brendan Egg, Todd Modo, Adi Osmani when he was like at AOL and was doing like
Oh, dang.
some cool stuff at the time, and then Google snatched him, of course. But yeah, so yeah.
Very cool.
hmm
So to give you some information on my backstory too, Addy, I came on the scene. I'd been doing Java for maybe a few years. I got started pretty late in life in computer science,
hmm
but I came across Angular right as Angular 2 was coming out.
Really?
So
Okay.
I come onto the scene, and so I miss a lot of this stuff. I've like gone back and recaptured it, like a lot of the stuff with jQuery and like the stuff that happened beforehand with like
Yep,
Ember and Angular JS.
exactly. Oh, Ember, don't talk about
But
Ember. Okay,
yeah,
but
so I miss all of that. I just come on the scene like in the middle of everything when you've got so TypeScript is coming
mm,
out at the same
mm-hmm,
time. Felt
mm-hmm.
very natural to me. I know like the community was erupting over it at the time.
Yep.
I could see that, but I definitely, for me, it was as soon as I got into the Angular framework, I knew I'm not going back of my own volition
Yes.
to
Yes.
what I had
Yes.
been before. And I
Yes.
think it's just like the tool sets were just so much better.
No,
Like orders
everything
of
was
magnitude.
there.
Yeah.
Everything was there. Like you remember. I mean, I don't know if you were around for Gulp or for like whatever was before Gulp.
Oh,
I
Gulp.
mean,
My experience with Gulp was like I needed to wrap some of my Angular stuff up in a war one time, and like the
mm-hmm,
only way I could find out to do it was like this package that needed Gulp to do it, and
mm-hmm.
like to Gulp it up to a war or whatever you call it. I hated
Yeah.
that so much. I
Yeah,
was like,
I'm telling you, but it got to the point where, I mean, the beauty of Angular really, it came, I think like it was all about timing.
yeah,
Because we got to the point where the front end started becoming more and more complex.
mhm,
It was not like your nice little buttons, like your little event listeners here and there. It was
mhm,
not all of that. It was a full blown, like, application in the front end.
yes,
We had to deal with database in the front end. We had to deal, like, with how we were managing state at the time, with the callback hell. There were so many things, and then like normalizing the HTTP request. I mean, if you want to haze somebody when they come in for the first time and you just want to haze them, get them to work with XML HTTP request, the class, and tell them, okay, figure this thing out and then come back tomorrow. So,
yeah,
there was all this thing, and there was all this like standards that were like, and then the browser wars and everything like that.
mhm,
And then Angular came, and I remember it very well when I saw the first demo, and then like what NG4 did at the time,
yeah,
and I was like, oh my Lord. I mean, this is it. And I became an Angular fanboy from that very first demo that I
nice,
saw. And then and I was like, we got too proud in the JavaScript ecosystem. We did not know that we needed an opinionated, like, framework, and we needed an opinionated framework because it
mm,
was starting to get like very crazy. So yeah, so that's the backstory with me and Angular right there.
cool, man.
Mhm.
So I was going to ask you about most of your content seems to be around just JavaScript stuff.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
going to see. So it sounds like that's your experience with Angular. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts towards like React or Vue or Svelte? Do you use any of those? And
Yeah. On and off, I think like Angular is the core. I mean, like I'm a
okay.
consultant, and like I would say 80% of the projects that I get involved are like Angular based project.
Oh wow.
I insist on JavaScript because I work with a lot of like corporate, like, people or like companies that are not a tech company. It might be a bank, it might be a hospital, it might be health related, it
Right.
might be insurance related. So they're not really at the core a tech company, but tech is a tool that they need to use nowadays to reach out their audience. So then they have a tech department. And I see a lot of people coming in, developing with Angular or with React, and just taking basically what the framework give them as is. But I did a tally of 80% of the bugs that I see like on a daily basis have to do with like no understanding of JavaScript itself.
Hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
you can follow the framework, you can do the tutorials and everything, but at the core, nowadays, I think you need to be a JavaScript engineer first, then like an Angular or like a React or a Svelte developer. I mean, you could bypass it, but the
Mhm.
deeper you go and the more your company is going to invest in those frameworks, you need pure JavaScript engineers in there who really understand. Because last time I have one code example here that I just like isolated in Stack Blitz. Like
Yeah.
that bug stayed for almost 3 days, or even like a whole week. Nobody could figure it out. or the people who looked at it. The two people who have some JavaScript, like, background, were able to say, oh, it's a scope issue. You just have to use bind. And they were able to see it in 5 minutes. So
Yes.
that's why I insist on JavaScript, because the thing is, like, I feel like the frameworks are great, but they are really diluting, the core skill that you need to understand as a JavaScript engineer to be really able to tap onto the potential.
Yeah.
That's just my take, though.
Yeah, well, I'm in a similar boat. So having come in, I very much felt like I was learning Angular first, and then like JavaScript was coming as it came. But this class of bugs and the kind of bugs I was running into that were giving me, a hard time and making me take some time, like you were saying, I realized very quickly I've got to invest some time into learning JavaScript too, like to make sure I understand what's going on. So. Yeah.
No, it's crazy. And I read a report from Coralogics, and they're saying that developers spend almost 75% of their time debugging code. 75% of their time. And that's like about $115 billion of development time every year in the US alone. So it's crazy. And if you tie it up to like not understanding, like Faulty and Trudy. I mean, like, those little things. So in the companies I work with, once I establish the relationship, I usually do like a little like training around like core concept of JavaScript. Trucy and Falsy come all the time.
Function,
function, syntax. We don't have to deal with hoisting that much anymore,
Yeah.
But scope comes all the time. Scope is there. I mean, people who use, for example, the what is it called? The arrow function, just because it looks cool, but don't know the implication. Because I always do that. I say, okay,
lexicalness is always better. That's my argument.
I'm telling you. And then we put it in a function, like, in a function object, and then you lose this. I mean, those little things. Everything breaks. So yeah.
And figuring out even how to debug those is very, very painful if you don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, and on top of it, if you are in Angular, you have the zone layer on top of it that is like, now how do you trace it back to actually? So yeah, there's so many, I would say, intuition that gets like lost along the lines if you just have not dealt with it like a certain way. So, and I've been having like management kind of like now rallying around it, because I'm like, okay, this allows us to just create some clean code, and less bugs, because the true metric, and that has been like my selling point now. The true metric is not how many bugs you get to close a day, is how many bugs you don't create in the first place.
Yes, so, absolutely.
So.
Well, so what is your prognosis? How do we get rid of bugs before they get in? Is it sounds like understanding JavaScript is a big one, because that covers a huge class of the bugs we see. But there's I don't know, like do unit tests come into how you go into solving that? Do mentoring or code reviews come into play? What's your take?
I mean, there's a whole culture facet to that, because writing unit tests is one thing, but are you writing the right tests for it? I mean, Joe Eames has covered some very cool stuff about writing good tests. So, and then the culture of testing. A lot of companies I work with do not invest in testing. Everybody is like feature. But then you get 20 feature out that way, then you are slowed down by $500 out of those 20 features, because you could not put like a testing suite. I mean, testing too has never been so attractive to a lot of developers. I mean, I even had like Mike Hartington out of everybody, and like Frosty telling me they hate testing.
Yes.
So developers.
Me and Frosty are on a team right now. Yeah. I can confirm that. We don't like testing. Honestly, one of the main reasons I hate testing, especially unit testing, is Josh is in the same org as us right now too. So yeah, you know what we're talking about. But like to me, one of the biggest things I dislike about unit testing is it takes you out of the mindset you should be in, which is like
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
you should be thinking about it from like the user's perspective all the time. I think that's why a lot of us get into front end, because we like that
Yeah,
short feedback loop.
yeah, I think end to end test makes sense to us, and like I really like have a big shout out to the Cypress team for what they
Yes.
have for what they have done, and I think that to have a lower bug count, you really need to start like investing into clean code and simplifying the code. I
Yes.
don't know how many times I open a component in Angular, a legacy Angular application, and I see 1,000 lines of code. I don't
Yeah.
want to even read it, in the
Mhm.
first place, but
It's bad enough you got the
yeah.
string matching to find the injection tokens and stuff like that. But
Oh
when you
my
get into
Lord.
like the huge
Yeah.
things, my,
The
my
thing
big
is,
thing too is just like you have the public or the private members of your class in there,
mhm,
and
mhm.
then let's see anywhere this changes. You go that's spread out evenly about 30 times throughout those 1,000 lines. And it's like tracing things to where they're supposed to go. It's just like we need to do better because
No, we need to do better. We need to
yeah.
have more intuitive code, and I see a lot of cool codes in conferences.
Hmm.
When it's prepped up and everything, and you get pumped up about it, but it's very, very hard to see it in enterprise code.
Yes.
So and
That's
pull
something I think
request,
about a lot, actually,
yeah.
Addy, is like
Mhm,
I find that you get to a certain point and like those code you see at conferences, I think people automatically think, oh, this is just an example. It shouldn't actually look like this.
mhm.
But I think like if you're doing it right, it kind of does. It's just like when you get into the enterprise scale, you get to this level of complexity that we just kind of give up. We throw up our hands and say, well, it can't look like that. It can't, like the code's just going to have all these nested ifs or something to make sure we account for all that stuff. And I think
Yeah,
that's just the wrong way, because that's how you end up with that 1,000-line file. That's
it
that's
is.
doing all
It
this
is. I
stuff.
mean, I even bought Todd Modo's like ultimate course for like some people in enterprise,
Yeah.
and then I showed like the advantage of like applying like smart component and dump component
Mhm.
architecture. The data stays up in the smart component and then
Yeah.
travels down. Events like bubbles back up, and
Mhm.
like refactor that, but. The thing is, if you don't have a convention or a culture of, okay, we can invest into writing better and more understandable and little chunks of code, if people are not buying into it, and then it's not reinforced in the PR process or like via the ESLints or like style guide, then
Mhm.
it's a lost issue. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lost cause right there. Yeah, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm,
I think beyond that too, like being able to see to understand, hey, this doesn't have to look like this.
mhm.
That's sometimes you need like the voice of experience to come in and say that. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that culture in place, like you're talking about, where you have a solid team of the senior engineers who are going to come in and check out every PR and make sure not just that the code getting into the code base is good, but
Mhm,
also that the people submitting these pull requests are
mhm.
improving. Like the a bigger asset than any code that a company has, I think, is their people, and making
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And the struggle is always: do you have a technology company or do you have a
Mm,
business company first? So if the company is technology oriented first, those become very important to them.
yeah.
Unfortunately, on the business side, it's like, let's push the feature and let's live with the result first. So you see a lot of companies are okay, and I'm not saying like okay, but most of them are comfortable pushing something that is buggy and live with the result, and then have people working on weekends and at night to try to figure out how to debug stuff. They
Yeah.
cannot understand. I mean, I don't know how to put the value into, if you do it the right way, then you don't have to worry about this anymore. But it's
Yeah.
very hard to sell if the
Yeah.
if the company is not a technology company in the first place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I absolutely resonate with that. I think convincing the people who need to make that decision that, hey, yes, we're going faster now, but we can see, like, we're engineers. We've seen this. We
Mm-hmm.
know if we keep making decisions like this, we're just going to get slower and slower and slower
Exactly.
until we're
Yep.
just going to grind to a halt.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and
Yep.
there's no amount of like extra engineers or anything you can throw at the problem to make it better. All it takes is like, we've got to invest in our people. We've got to make sure we're doing this right and we're getting ample time to do the feature correctly so that it doesn't cripple us going forward.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like one of my good friends say, like putting 9 pregnant women in a that's not going to produce a baby in a month. You know, you're going to have to go through the process. There's a software development life cycle. There are things that, and the one thing that I cannot support to hear anymore because it's now an excuse is like tech debt. You know. I'm like, people are just using it now as okay, yeah, we have technical debt, we have this technical debt, but you got to pay that debt at some point. So, you know, so yeah, you got to pay that debt with some interest, like most of the time at some point. So yeah, that's the unfortunate part. So yeah.
Well, there's also like, it seems like a compounding problem to me also because like you have humans writing this code, at least for now. Like who knows when we're going to get that AI is going to achieve singularity and it will all become obsolete. But for now, humans building it, and if humans are in this world where they have to be combing thousands of files to figure out what's on, not is the code they produce not as otherwise, but you compare what that developer is able to achieve versus a developer whose code that they love is super easy to understand and like freely. It's like it's like a double whammy. Like
I mean,
you just make it worse and worse.
The 5-second rule by John Papa. That's the one that we need to abide for. I mean, like if I quickly share my screen, this is one presentation that I go every single client that I have worked with. I have like shown you somehow, some way, a variation of this. So let's see. Are you going to see yourself for a second? But if
let's get this
view and present.
Let me get the outline. There we go.
So you see it before we get to the 5-second rule.
Yeah.
So
PLD seems like a poor name.
That's what I'm saying. So this is so that was when I was talking yelling at people by Uncle Bob. So let's go. So for example, whenever I go to a company, I say, okay, so I'm going to challenge everybody here. I have $100 or I have I have like $10 sometimes, depends, you know. And I'm gonna put this code on the screen, and you have 5 seconds to tell me exactly what the code is doing.
I don't even need 5 seconds. I'm looking at the title. I'm looking at the title of the file. This is clearly about screaming. So,
so then, and I have international audiences because, like you know, when you're in the tech business, there are people from everywhere. PLD can mean anything to any of us. But look at the simple fact. Let me see. I don't know why it's not presenting. It's this one. There you go. So let me present this one.
Yeah.
So look at the simple fact of going from PLD to is palindrome. There's intent. There's even like an induced return type. Because when I say is palindrome, I'm telling you that I'm expecting a Boolean.
You see that is, you're getting a Boolean. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, just like by doing this simple change, I don't even need to know the inner workings of the function to know what is it going to be about. And then we can go even further, you know. So if we take, we go from str here, which is a very, indicated, not indicative of like, so people know, some people would know, but it's going to be a string, but we can be even more explicit. And some people yelled at me that like, why using strings? I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. So, but
in TypeScript, that can get confusing. But
there you go. But then we go there to like the line 2, line 4, and line 7, where we went from _str to trim string. So I hate regular expression. I don't. I always suck at regular expression. But if I run into this code, I don't need to know what's happening on the right to know that this is like what trim string. Just looking at the name
Yeah.
is intuitive. So
Yeah.
these are the little things, the little tweaks, that any of us can do and make it like very easy for us to self-document and then have intuitive codes, not only for us but for our colleagues. So that's one presentation that I do a lot of time, and that's
Yeah.
how like you start like changing the minds, and the culture around clean code.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent example. I actually can you put the code back up? I have a question for you about it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Okay.
Here's almost like the thing I run into sometimes, and I'm curious if you think this is too much. I would see that, like line 2 right there, and I gravitate towards like FP, like functional programming stuff.
Yes.
So I'm
yes.
looking at that, and I'm like, okay, trim string. Maybe I just make that a function.
Yes.
Like so you take everything on the right of that equal sign, make it a function.
Exactly.
And that returns a string. And then I'm at the point where I'm like, well, this function could really just be a one-liner, right? Because then I could
No, look. Now you are really going
I'm going
into
too
like
far.
no. You went 20 slides like ahead. So if I keep going,
okay. Gotcha.
The second exercise is this exercise that I present. Given an array of items, extract all the number and return the sum. Array can have nested array, and your program should still output the proper total. So we have a nested and stuff. So you want to extract that. And I always go, okay, as a human, I can come and do 1 + 2 is 4, 7, 11, 11, 16, 16, 19.75, and then 18. 18.75 and then 17.75. So you need to write something that allows you to do that. And I call this section singularity. I don't know if that's even an English word. But then basically we have like very specific functions. Each number is only going to worry about checking that a function is a number. Yeah. The second one, flatten array, and I'm coming to your point. That's before like, I think ES7 or ES6 came with the flatten one. But that was one way to do like flattening an array and having the recursion right here real quick. Then you have sum of numbers. But what you're talking about is like, each number is very specific. Flatten array, like going into that idea of pure functions, basically, and sum of numbers. Now, you get to the point where you can start taking care of like composition. I'm going to go fast because like, here we have chaining.
Yeah.
That allows us to do this, but we can go even further. So I'm coming to your point.
Perfect. You flatten the array, you filter out things that aren't a number, and then you sum them up. So
and then on top of it, now it's inside this module. But what if I want to use it outside of this module? So I use the compose now. Yeah. That allows me now to do the same thing here. Now I can take calc number sum is going to be a composition function that takes like, because compose is going from right to left. So, so now it's going to flatten the array. It's going to filter the numbers and it's going to output the sum, and then finally we have here the same result from the two. And then finally, we start like putting them into an util module. That util module has a compose, a flatten, and a number. And the end result, I'm going to go very, very fast here. That was that's it. Your single line is right there.
Yeah.
I import my functions. I have my array set that I could maybe possibly pass to this module. And then on line 16, I just like have a one-liner right there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think what you were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where I like to go to. But yeah, it's interesting because there's some interesting like nuanced questions here. Like which one would you here? Let me switch back to this. There we go. So gotta keep the production value high. Yeah. But I worry sometimes about like, are we going too small? Like
yeah. The thing is, when I do this talk, I tell them this is not like this is not the Bible. This is not like the rules. You pick what makes sense for your culture. Some people would have
Yes.
stopped at the chaining, and some people want to go like smaller. To me, the rule of thumb is, if I'm going to be reusing my functions a lot, if I have a lot of like the application that I have, let's say a weather calculation app, a mapping, or some stuff like that, I turn like my small units into these utils like library, and I can pick them and compose them. But if I have like a main functionality, sometimes that function is never going to be used somewhere else. Like one of the rule of thumb is that until it gets called, you don't need to abstract it, basically.
Yeah.
So if it's used in one place, just leave it in that place. Use the class and then have a method that just does that. And you can even like have a nice class, structure right there. But it really depends on what type of application, and the one thing is, you never ever want to start with thinking about optimizing it like from the get-go. I think it should be a result, but not the goal from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this comes from like the Uncle Bob stuff with the clean code, right? Is like get right. Well, I mean, part of this is like writing your tests, but make sure you have your tests. So you're defining this is some target we have to hit. When we see a green light here, we know we're done. So get the green light first. And then after you've gotten the green light, writing as weird or crappy code as you can, then go through refactor for readability, optimization, stuff like that.
Exactly.
So, make sure at least you have the green light, and then just keep the green light.
and usually, depending on where I do this presentation, the last part becomes like how easy those units become like testable. Because if I sorry, I did not know that I was going to present, but always come ready. So you never know when you're talking with geeks. So right here, if you're seeing my screen.
Yeah, wrong button. There we go.
Okay, so if you're seeing my screen, that's the same thing that I showed you, but now I have turned them into TypeScript files. Yes. And then if I open flatten array, I have flatten array TS, and then I have a spec. It's so easy to just write unit tests for it because I'm dealing with only one unit. Yes. Imagine when it was like all jumbled up. That's not the same case. So this is usually like when I do this kind of presentation, you have to know who you're talking to, where they at with their stuff. But it becomes very easy. Make array. The TS is very simple to make an array. And
are you at the point, or do you get to the point where you actually write the test before you actually write the code itself?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I hate that part. I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's so nice because that'll give you the green light to get there. And I find when you break things down to the level you're talking about, that's when it becomes feasible to do so. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the thing to me, I tried it. I mean, like TDD, why not? I tried it. But the thing is, I start thinking about so much about the perfect, structure that then my testing, my TDD takes too much time. Where here, I start with this big function. It really started with a big function. I want to just get to solving like what this functionality is supposed to do. Once I have that, then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can extract out the array function, put it there. Maybe I can extract this part out. So in my draft mode, I just go dirty. I just really have my big function. Everything is like in one place, and I'm just trying to get to the solution. Then I have probably another day or two, and this is what I explained to when I do this presentation for junior developer. I'm like, this is not a 30-minute like deal. This is a 3-day, 4-day like endeavor, and that's just one functionality. So choose your battles and be very diligent about your time too.
Yeah, well, Addy, this is a good segue to something I wanted to talk about from the roundtable talk that I had seen from a couple of weeks back, where you had mentioned like you would come to the table with like not just the solution you wanted to do, but you would predict these are the other 2 ways we could do it, and here's all 3 of them. Let's figure out which one we want. Don't worry, they're already all done. I thought that was, well, at first it was like super impressive, but Do you like doing that? Like, I feel like that could really like boost someone to understand different ways and maybe thinking even, hey, I wanted to do this one first, but then when I did this other one, this one actually turned out looking a little better. Maybe we should go with that one. I don't know. I'm curious about your experiences doing that. So, there's Brandon, by the way. Hey, Brandon.
What's up, Brandon? I mean, it's cool to do that if you are coming from a constructive mechanism. But what made it happen for me was a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because for many reasons, like my solution was just like not even considered in the first place, And the thing is, like, that was not understanding that I took the time to evaluate 2 or 3 more before I came with that one. I just did not come with that one out of the blue. Yeah. Now I was like, okay, it becomes a defense it became a defense mechanism. He got jokes, man. It became like a defense mechanism.
Brendan speaks the truth, man. You're out here on some other level.
No, but the thing is, like, okay, if you go that route, there's 2 lions waiting for you there. You're gonna die. If you go that route, there's like 5 hyenas there. You have a better chance with the 2 lions because, the hyenas are not going to get tired. But if you go this route, basically you have like 2 mad dogs in there. And if you toss them a bone, you're going to go. So every single time I come with the dog solution and tossing a bone, people are like, what about the lion route? What about the hyena route? So, and that just pissed me off.
Yeah. So you learned you got to show them first. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's get eaten by lions. Oh, wait, that's not good. Let's get eaten by hyenas.
That's how it was. I mean, it's good if it comes from a constructive mechanism where, like, if I was working with you or Brandon or something, we come and we put out all possible solution, and without no ego trip, just wanting to find the best route. I mean, I'm talking route, and then Brandon jumps in. Okay. So
like, I got your router right here, bro.
Exactly. So just talking about if it comes from there, I love those kind of conversation because I don't have any problem of being wrong. Just show me the right way and I'm okay with you. But when it comes from sensitivities of like, okay, you're too dark to give us like, a direction, or you might not be smart enough, then it became a defense. I love router. I cannot lie. I know, man. The router loves you back too, Brandon. I swear.
Nice.
Yeah.
That comment came in perfectly at 4:20 too. So it's
oh my god.
Good timing, Brandon.
I'm telling you.
but I wanted to latch on to something you said there, which was about ego, which was, I mean, to me, it's something that we have to have almost, right? Like we're creating here. I think like by definition that requires ego to like bring something together and create. But it's such a it's something we have to like latch on to empower us to like drive us forward, but to see in the ways it can hinder us too.
Yes.
Where you have someone like you were talking about, like coming out as a consultant, I feel like I'm super mindful of this a lot, where I don't want to be the person to come in and say, no, you're doing this wrong. This is how you should be doing it. And to instead be like, because I think when you come at it that way, you're sabotaging the ego, because you're talking with other creators. You have to like come at it with let's consider it this way. We're a team here. We're here to create together. Like this is not you versus me. This is us.
Yes.
And trying to figure out.
I mean, there's a huge balance. There's a huge like tricky step where you have to balance ego and humility. So the thing is, you have to be confident about your craft. I remember there was a line on I Love Movie Sports, Any Given Sunday, and where Al Pacino is saying, like, if you're gonna make a mistake, make it big, go all out, but just make it big, be confident about your choice and make that big mistake, but don't be that hesitant fool in between. So I mean, and that's the thing. So there is a fine line. And to us, we start as engineers, as technologists, and all that kind of stuff. But then the soft skills, which is something that I insist a lot in some of the juniors that I coach, the soft skills are as important. How to show that like you are right without being condescending. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you have like empathy for people's knowledge? If I'm like 2 steps ahead of you in Angular, all I have to do to calm myself down is think about like a Jeff Cross, a Victor Safkin, a Zach, and say, okay, however much I feel like that I'm out there are people who are out there who are even further. So
Mm.
the more humble I am, you know, the more I can like, you know, have this culture of like, okay, this is sharing. But I see a lot of people mixing being a leader and like being a bully. And then we have that a lot, unfortunately, in our, and even on Stack Overflow. You go in there, you give somebody a solution out of your time, you write a solution for them, and people are yelling at you. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, man. You know,
Just
don't
trying
use
to help.
yeah, don't use the poor guy or poor girl like solution, but like you don't have to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Say maybe this is not gonna work and everything like that. So I think like
Yeah.
in our industry, people who are like in a position of power have to be very adamant about empathy, and then really be careful about like, you know, how the team treats each other, because
Yeah.
if not, then like you don't have trust, you don't have people who even want to come up. I mean, and you know, and that's what
Yeah.
we were talking about in the panel. If I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to make a mistake, how am I going to be able to grow?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And man, one of the things you said in that panel, like it broke my heart. Like when you were talking about you went from this progression you described where you started out, you just weren't aware of like the microaggressions or the latent racism or and then you started realizing you get treated different. And then it would to, you know, you only get work Addy. Like we don't get to play basketball anymore. We're
Yeah.
just here to work. We're just
Yeah.
here to do that. And
Yeah.
then to just not giving a fuck.
Exactly. Literally. No,
But
literally. Yeah.
that is like everything. Oh, I hated seeing or hearing you describe it that way, because I feel like so much of what I've enjoyed about coming through tech is being able to create teams and build teams where we feel like there's that trust there that you know, whatever you do, I know you're trying your hardest. I know we're going to work to make this thing better together. I know you have things that you're bringing to the table that no one else here does, and I'm trying to create, you know, the biggest circle I can of all of our different knowledge. And when you, I feel like when you get to that, like to where, you know, you just, you know, I'm getting my work done, and you know,
I mean, it's a process. At the end of the day, there is something that can make me a little more approachable, but there are like a lot of buttons there that can trigger like, you know, the defensiveness, because it comes from like, I mean, emotional experience are like they never go. It's a scar that is like ready to be open again. I mean, sometimes you might have your favorite song, but then a tragedy happened around it. Anytime you hear like one note that sound like it, it brings you back, you know. So emotional like scars are very, very hard, you know, to heal. And sometimes we have our triggers. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm too feisty, and I don't like to be feisty. I like to be goofy. I like to goof around. I like to laugh and everything. But a lot of people at work never see that side of me, because I'm like, you know, F it. I'm here to work, and I'm not here to be your friend. So yeah. That's unfortunate, but there's a lot of compound, you know, hurt that made that happen, and I really don't like it at all.
Absolutely. Hearing that, like that was a moment of I don't know what they call it, like checking your privilege or realizing, hey, I took a lot of this for granted. Another thing that I think you and Brandon both mentioned, and I think Jesse did too. Jesse was the other guy on that thing, right? That y'all have to work 15 times harder or 17 times harder than everyone else in the room to get to where you're at. And that wins were, when you had a win, it was like a surprise. And if someone else had a win, it's like, well, that's what they're expected to do. And I've had that. I feel like I've had that through my career to some extent, like to where I felt, okay, I've got a chip on my shoulder. Like no one expected me to get this far, but we're here, dang it. And we're going to keep plowing through. But yeah, to hear some of the stories and like these additional barriers you had to come across, I want to have that empathy for what you all had, but at the same time, I feel like I just every time I hear like a panel like that, I feel like there's a new aspect or a new dimension to not understanding y'all's experience that I want to understand, but I can't because I haven't had those experiences.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, to me, the very first part is like being open to hear it and to acknowledge that, oh, there's something that I've been missing, you know. So, but and we have our champions too in the community. You know, I talk about Frosty a lot. I talk about Sam Julian a lot. You know, and because those people like, you know, really showed what is it to be human at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the code and all about like, you know, getting back to our lives, and that's it. So, but the thing is, the discrepancy about race, like in the US and in the world in general, it has been here forever. And I think like as a protection mechanism, sometimes, you know, other races that are not like, you know, black have put a circle of like a circle around them and saying like, it's not happening to me, maybe it's not as bad. But this platform and like coming even in your show, and you are willing to even put yourself in the spot and saying, hey man, I don't know, that's a huge step like toward the right direction. Because I think I said like in that panel, the worst thing you can do about witnessing like a bully situation is just to walk away and not do anything. Even if you just stop right there, not engage, and just like, you know, be present, that might change the situation. So to me, you know, we have a long way to go, but I am hopeful when I'm dealing with some people like in the industry that I know at the bottom of their heart they want to do the right thing, and that's a lot. That means a lot to us.
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple things I want to latch on to from what you had said. Do you have a hard stop here?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, cool.
I did my last pull request today. I'm done.
Nice. Nice. It just signal if I'm going too long. But
no, we're good. We're good.
One of the big things that that happened, like with the George Floyd thing, you were talking about the circles we draw around ourselves and say, you know, well, it's not happening to us. Like it's not happened to anyone in my circle. I think one of the biggest things, Brandon's got some more pull requests. Nice. But the big thing about the George Floyd thing, like it was just so humanizing that video to see. I felt like terrible that the event happened, but I felt like for a lot of people, it became apparent that George Floyd was clearly in our circle. You know, like this is one of us. This is one of ours. That we just saw go down. Like didn't matter if you were black or not. Like this is American.
I mean, to be honest, that circle too, like some of us has drawn it around. Because to me, when I heard about police brutality before, I was like, okay, that must have been that had the connotation of the people who were receiving it were gang banging or something. Oh, they must be bad people. Why do you even want to deal with the police in the first place? You know, and stuff like that. But I'm old enough to remember Rodney King in LA. Yeah. And at some point, there was no founded reason for them to keep on hitting that guy. You know, even in a boxing match, when you are like swearing to each other like for months, you know, going like craziness. The moment like your opponent is down, the first thing that you do, because you are a person of grace, is to check on them and to make sure that the fight is over. Yeah. You know, aggression cannot go beyond the fact that the fight is over, but you keep on hitting on your opponent. Yeah. And that's the thing. The George Floyd, I have never been able to watch the full 8 minutes. You know, the moment that it starts, I just walk away. But the thing but the thing that it drove home for me is the guy went to the freaking store to get some, I don't know, milk or whatever for his family. And then the crime was that he had a funny $20 bill. I mean, how stupid is that? That, like, you know, back in the days, good policing would be like, okay, if you're gonna go and steal $20, here is $20, kid, stay out of trouble, you know. But to
Yeah.
the point that like it gets to the point where when I drive and I come home, you know, I'm scared for myself, not for myself as an individual, but how crazy would it be for somebody to knock at my wife's door and say, hey, your guy is not here anymore because like he had a funny $20 bill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. That thing like hit me to the core, and like Brandon knows what I'm talking about because I had a show, a podcast that I started. I mean, like a meetup called Kodos Craft Dev. I felt so numb. I could not do anything for the last. I mean, I'm kind of starting to get back into it, but I just could not. I could not function for a long time. I mean, this one hit me to the core. And then we are a nation now that have seen Emmett Till, that have seen like the some of the massacres, that have like seen the civil rights movement and everything like that. And still, George Floyd like hit us to our core.
Oh man.
You know, so.
Do you remember the part where he's calling out to his mom?
Yeah, I mean, like I heard it, I never seen it. I mean, I just could not. Could not watch it. But
he was calling out to his mom. His mom died 2 years ago, I think.
I know, but
and realizing like he knew he was going home.
I know. I mean, it is. How can we, if we say that this is the United States of America, how can we as a nation say that we okay with this? You know, I don't care if he's black or whatever, but how can we look at a human being being totally murdered in front of our very own eyes, and everybody go the next day and be about like, okay, you know, I mean, to me, this is sick. It is sick, and like, I just don't know. I mean, and that's why I reached out to Brandon. I reached out to Lekan Olawoye from BPTN. I reached out to a few people because there was a lot of anger, but at the same time, there was a lot of like, I just know what the F to do right now. This is nuts, you know? So I don't know, man. But the thing though is like, we cannot be naive anymore. I don't think we have been naive. We cannot be naive as a people. We have to know that until it becomes like the norm, you know, driving or walking around as a black man or woman, you know, depending on the context, and sometimes there's not even the context, depending on the mood of somebody, you know, can be like life-threatening. And we have to be like aware of that, and then be able to try to be like, you know, very mindful about the situation. But then the thing that I'm hoping is the people around will never like stand by and watch another George Floyd happen in front of their eyes. Hopefully, if that triggers like that kind of emotion, you know, he would have not died in vain, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe trying to pull this back to tech a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, one of the big things I think there's a whole thing we could get into here on like police reform, a bunch of stuff I'm probably not qualified to talk about because I don't really, I'm not a politician or anything like that. I'm just an engineer. But one of the things I know as an engineer is like, you know, we look at facts, we look at the science. Like to me, it seems like the effort to get more underrepresented groups into tech is almost like a selfish thing. Like, I believe as a white male cis engineer, I legitimately benefit from, you know, being surrounded by people who aren't just like me, because then I see like it's like I'm talking about with building that team where you're trying to build as many different circles, like as big of a circle as you can, where, you know, overlapping. You don't want everyone to be overlapped right on top of each other, because then the circle of your knowledge is just you might as well just have the one person, right? But if you can have more people that can like, well, and the studies have shown individuals in diverse groups grow a lot better, a lot faster than people surrounded by you know, people like them. So yeah, these are all things that come into my mind when we think about this. And I think there's like some fear like from other white people, maybe, we're going to lose opportunities because we're creating opportunities for the minorities. But I don't know.
I mean,
That's never been a thing for me. But
at the end of the day, this is a competitive field,
yeah.
So the thing is, it's up to each of us to be to up our skills,
Mm-hmm.
to come and provide solution for like the clients and the products that are like giving us that trust. So I believe that no matter what, it's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for the people who are passionate about it and who are always going to work like that late night to just figure out one concept and everything like that. Now when everybody is already at that level and is like working very hard, you know it's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate that bias sometimes would let a good candidate go, because to me a jerk is a jerk, a bad candidate is a bad candidate, a wrong fit is a wrong fit. you
Right.
know the moment though that you put a color on top of it, then that's where it becomes problematic at the end of the day. So we have to do a better job at like getting a better interview process. For the first time ever in my life, I'm going to defend like the Google coding interview, because I understand now why it's being put together. I finally got or at least I convinced myself this is why it makes sense. Because when you go through that nonsense, on the other side, you are joining people who went through the same.
It's a
It's like,
hazing ritual.
yeah, it's
Almost.
a hazing ritual, and then you went through the same. You can trust that person that okay, they had to be resourceful to get here.
Yeah.
So to me, it doesn't have anything to do with, and then they will let some good candidates go or whatever. But it's just like at the end of the day, everybody has to go through that.
Yeah.
So to me, if we normalize the interview process, in a way where the best fit engineer gets the job, then that will be half of the battle won right there. But I
Yeah.
have been in many interviews, in many interviews, where the moment I walked in, I knew I was not going to get the job, no matter like what I was going to put on that damn board or whatever. And then there's been some other interview where I had been drilled down to the core, like, and I knew that was not a right fit for me, and I was
Yeah.
passed on.
Mm-hmm.
But there's many interviews where like, being passed on did not have anything to do with your intellect or you being a fit or anything. People were even excited about you coming until you show up. So so that's where the nuance is.
Yeah.
I never liked the affirmative like action act or whatever, saying like we're just gonna have to boost the quota for minority. No, it's just gonna be like a meritocracy. So that means like if you are the right fit, you should get the position. That's it.
Yeah.
You cannot just get it because you are black or because like but you should not be denied of it just because you are black too. So that nuance, it's going to be around for a while. We have to
I
be
think
like
so too.
it's going to be there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you heard about Paystack, this company in Nigeria that is like going to be, they're trying to be like the new Stripe for Africa,
Nice.
and they got bought by Stripe actually,
Oh wow.
yeah, for $200 million, which is huge in Africa. So so like shout out to the Paystack team, they're making us all proud. But the point that I'm getting to is there is the culture of going and working for somebody, but there are all the tools into getting your own stuff going on too nowadays. And this
Yes.
is, we have to give that duality, that option to the younger generation and let them know, hey, you can be the next Space Stack, you can be the next Stripe, you can be the next whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to be able to coach them to think about that way.
Yeah. Well, hearing some of what Yvonne was saying at that round table, her experiences as a junior developer, and
Mm-hmm.
that was the other big thing. Like what you said about like just getting down to the point where you just don't care anymore, and then Yvonne also telling about her experiences getting started in the industry. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaking, because how can we expect to have people at the black people or people of minorities at the higher as senior developers, and having them like give them a shot if we don't let them improve, like if we don't give them the tools to succeed. So
Yeah, yeah, that's unfortunate. Unfortunately,
yeah,
that's so true.
yeah. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm probably not qualified to think about solutions to this, but yeah, there's something about like increasing the pipeline, or I don't
I
know.
mean, it's just I'm happy when I see people like Jeff with their own company. People like Frosty with their own company.
Mhm.
There is Mike Alewo from Legend with their own company. There's a lot of people like that you would say would have white privilege, but at the core, that like these are like decent, very good human beings, and those people, little by little, can really shift the culture. Because the thing
Mhm.
is, at Norwal, you guys don't care like what color. Like, I mean, if I came blue in there and I knew how to do my shit, I'm gonna get hired tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know that I need to up my skills
Blue
to be
is on brand for us. So.
it is, yeah, and that's the thing. I might even come with like a freaking like but the thing is I know that I need to like get my skills to a point where you know I'm gonna be
That's catered for normal,
yeah,
right?
there you go, yes. So the thing is, I love those companies. I mean,
Yeah.
I've tried out for Narwhal like I think 1 or 2 times, and I failed, and then I failed with a smile, because during the whole process, Jeff, who I know his schedule. He has a getting blue hair. Do not count on that one, man. I'll go purple, man. I'll go purple, not blue.
Nice. You and
So,
Caitlin can both go in.
but but the whole time, he was
Mhm.
very responsive to email. He was very helpful. He wanted me to succeed,
Mm.
and he told me like the formula to like, okay, maybe you need to check on this and this and that, for next time.
Yeah.
So I really like that interview process, and that's why when I met him at NG Atlanta, I did not knock him out. So he was nice. I did not have to, So, so, but no, but those people are really the people that makes me hopeful, because if Jeff creates and Victor creates a narwhal, and then like have a culture like that, 5 years from now we might have 5 narwhals or 10 narwhals,
Yeah.
and then you have that snowball effect. So it is very, very good to have the right leaders, in the right place, and
Right.
then make sure it's all about code. If I code right, I'm gonna be a narwhalian. If I don't code right, I'm not gonna be a narwhalian, and that should be okay. So to me, giving high props to like people like that, the narwhals, the what's Lady Leeds what's Lady Leeds, like this dot or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right.
Yeah, Lady Lead, this dot, I mean, I
Eric Frost,
read
Hero
Eric
Devs.
Eric Eric Frost, Hero Dev, Aaron Frost, like Hero Devs. I really like those little companies that are like going back
Yeah,
about, yeah, this is
Tracy.
about the tech. Yeah, Tracy, so shout out to those people who are making a difference, like, one engineer at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing, I'd love to see. I don't know. I'd love to see more Black people in that situation too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would, like, I want to see that, because I think that's going to help bring the whole industry up higher. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like Lekan Olawoye. He's on LinkedIn. He's the founder of BPTN, Black People in Tech Network, and they just had like the biggest like tech conference, like for Black people and diversity, and like he's really like on the battlefield, like going to companies, like and he's based in Canada, and then he's going to those companies and tell them, do you have a diversity like department,
Yeah.
do you have like, and then these companies are willing to work with him, because like you were saying, they want to do something but they don't even know how. So big shout out to Lekan for doing that, and like his effort in that, and then he's really building that network, of I mean, I did not know there were so many Black people in tech. Honestly, I did not know,
Yeah.
so but he's really like putting us on the map, and
Yeah.
yeah, giving him a big shout out and his team like at the same time.
Yeah. Brandon was doing some stuff on Twitter there too, where he's just trying to find more people. I think he's been getting them on his show and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see. Like, I know on the round table, you all said you're all just out there hustling, trying to get yourself out. So it's hard to like poke up and
I've been wanting to run this. I've been wanting to run this by Frosty, because you saw like NG Vikings, for example. And people took on the Viking thing, the culture, but
I think Brandon's trying to proposition you now.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, I've reached out to a few people. We'll see if that's gonna happen, but there are so much stuff, like, that can be teamed Africa. There's so many great empires that like happen in Africa, like the Mandingo Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Eritreans, like the Ethiopians. There's so many good stuff that happen, like, that we could team like an NG conference that way. So we'll see when it's gonna come. It might be an NG conference. It might be a JavaScript conference. It might be like, but we need to start like thinking about that way, and then having a team all around, because the center would be the technology, but the peripherals, can be about learning more about the culture and like learning more about the nice stuff. And then there's stuff coming up, if God's willing, like we say, that should be there on the radar by 2021. So yeah, stay tuned for those.
That's awesome, man. I'll be looking forward to that. If there's ever CFPs, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for more places. But hey, thanks so much for coming on. I know we're over time. I get dark now, but wanted to mention the one last thing about like the other thing you said was your cousin's starting out in the business now, and I think you mentioned you want your daughter. You have hopes for her in this business too, and hoping we can lay a better road for them. So.
Yeah, I'll be their first investor when they get to that. If they show that they have like what it takes, that they don't do it because just I'm doing it, if that's their passion, then I'll support them. But for my daughter, it's very early for her. She might be more of a graphic artist than anything else. So to me, whatever she chooses, I'm gonna be. But my goal is I'm gonna be their first investor. So whatever, and I'm going to be a tough investor, man. I want some money back. So
I like that.
I'm not going to be that angel like daddy guy. No.
You're not an angel investor.
Yeah, I'm not an angel. Yeah, I'm a daddy investor. You're going to get some revenue back in that stuff. So
awesome,
yeah,
man.
but yeah. So like, it's up to them to define their path. And I hope that I'll be there to help them, like make it whatever they want it. Yeah, with a lot of interest, man. Yeah.
Nice. So I've got 6 kids, so that seems like my next good investment strategy. All right, kids, it's time for me to retire. What's that interest?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed this. And,
thank you. Yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed talking to you. We should. I'd love to have you on again sometime. If you got some tech stuff you want to pitch anytime, let me know. If you just want to chat again, this was. I really enjoyed this. So.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine, then. Thank you so much. And like, I'm looking forward to 060. It's not going to be as cool as 59.
It's going to be hard to top, but 060, that's tomorrow, same time. We've got Brian Love coming on. He's going to talk about it too.
Yeah.
Lookout.dev. So
yeah, man. Yeah, I love what he does. Yeah, he already has the name for it. So yeah,
he's got all the love.
Yeah.
Bro, Brian was one of those guys for me. Like when I first got starting in Angular, I would always look for his stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was good, and because also I knew it would actually be Angular and not AngularJS.
Yeah. No, he's super good. He has like some mad teaching skills. I cannot wait to hear from him tomorrow.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you in the chat.
All right.
That was great. Thanks everyone for coming by. Brandon, Caitlin, Josh, if you're still here, y'all rock. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.